Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Tchaikovsky.
Hello, hello.
Over there. And we are honored to have this special guest today, Simon Hinton. So welcome, Simon.
Yay.
It's great to have you on.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back on the show. It's an honor to be invited back, and really looking forward to having some good conversation tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do, and then we'll do our usual forecast.
Okay. Well, I'm somebody that's done a lot of things in my life, but essentially I'm known predominantly in these times. I'm a transformational teacher, a quantum healer, an occultist, an esoteric researcher, speaker, and entrepreneur. And I've developed a lot of systems, including the Harmonic Resonance Healing System, advanced healing systems for Lightbody Ascension. And I share the teachings and what I do, the power of mastery, the path of mastery, soul architecture, understanding and decoding the light body and the underlying core components of Ascension. I share those to clients across the world, to people at different events and stuff. And the most important thing is that the teachings that I've received, it's not all about me. In fact, it's not about me. I'm just somebody with mad enough and maverick enough to carry this work. I'm somebody that brings forth the information and shares it. And the most important thing is that it helps. It really does help people transform their reality as it's transformed mine in the most exceptional ways. So I'm excited about what I do. I'm excited about the teachings. I'm excited to talk to you tonight about this quantum age that we're in, this quantum age of Ascension.
An amazing time it is, isn't it? So
it is
beautiful. Thank you. So as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and do our little energy update. Okay. And we'll see where we're at, because really, it has been crazy. You wouldn't be able to tell by this Schumann how it has been, because this is actually fairly calm. But certainly over the weekend and late last week was pretty intense. We had, of course, we're up to 26 today with our baseline of 7.8 hertz usually. So again, we are elevated, but we're seeing like in the 20s quite frequently these days. In terms of solar flares, nothing too much in the last day or so, but we've had some big solar flares recently. As you can see here, last Tuesday, we had an X5, which is one of the higher ones that we've had in the last 6 months. We've also had some large coronal mass ejections that have hit the Earth. They've hit the atmosphere of the Earth. Let me phrase that correctly. Of course, that bumps up against us, and we end up with some big shifting happening, whether it's quantumly or in the physical. We sometimes have physical symptoms around all of that as well. And you can see here, actually, there was a X4 as well on Friday. We're not seeing it here in the index, but over the weekend, this was up in the 6s and 7s. So we were definitely having auroral stuff at the end of the week last week into the weekend. So that is where we are at with that.
Yeah. Well, and y'all may have felt that on the weekend. So on the 14th was probably the second, I think they said it was the second most powerful eruption in 2025 so far with an X4. So yeah, it's definitely been intense. And this one actually caused like power outages and stuff in different parts of the world. So it's yeah, so we're
and in a few people I know. I certainly slept a lot last week.
Absolutely. Well, and it's so interesting too, just noticing the impacts that it does have on us, because it's going to impact each of us a little bit differently, depending on, you know, what's going on for us, but it impacts us all regardless. And so, yeah, on that, today we're actually switching transit. So we move into gate 14, and gate 14 is possession in great measure. This is the power of prosperity. And so the energy of this gate moves us from the shadow of compromise to the siddhi of bounteousness through the gift of competence. So the energy here, it's about, Richard Rudd talks about this idea of like the inner engine of prosperity. So it's the energy that carries us through great transformations. So this transit is here to remind us that our life force is sacred, and where we place it and how we use it and what we devote ourselves to really does determine our direction. And so the path is really the path of devotional strength, right? This is the pure power that we have in our life force, that inner fuel that drives creation and mastery, and ultimately this gate, which is that prosperity energy. And so this idea of self-empowerment, the archetype, this is somebody who knows their path and then invests their energy wisely in that. And so when we're looking at this from the shadow perspective, this is about being the victim of misalignment. And so it's either that kind of impotent or enslaved mindset, right? If we're in that reactive or repressed kind of energy, and noticing how we have this fear of wasting energy, and that can either make us jump into things or hold ourselves back from things, both of which don't actually serve us using our energy in alignment. And so with the gate 14, what we might see is the subtle or blatant, depending on how the energy is showing up for us, compromise of our life force. So are we pouring energy into things that drain us, or are we pouring energy into things that light us up, right? And often we end up in this place of obligations and habits and all the shoulds, right? We've talked about the shoulds so often. Because we're afraid to follow what truly calls us, because we have all of this, well, I should do that and I shouldn't do this. And so we compromise, and we do that even with the small things, right? That small yes when we want to say no, committing to things out of fear or guilt, kind of playing ourselves down, playing small, not allowing ourselves to really step into that authentic path. And so as this grows, right, we can see that snowball effect of how that gets more and more. And so the way that we can work with this shadow is allowing it to teach us. If we don't choose where our energy goes, life's going to choose it for us. And so we really do need to be the conductors here. We need to be in that space where we go, I want to align my energy with what I want to bring forward, right? This is that aligned mastery. That's the competence, the gift of this card. And this is the power that flows through our truth. It emerges when we stop giving our energy away to what doesn't align for us. And as we do that, we can start to feel that inner authority, right? We can allow our energy to flow through us. It's grounded, it's connected to source. And that is where competence becomes prosperity in motion. It's our ability to live with synchronicity, and that builds momentum. And that's where the siddhi of bounteousness can really come forth in our experience, right? It's the overflow of life force. And so prosperity is more of this state of being than it is about having stuff. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, because in this sense, prosperity is really about the embodiment of abundance in every way that shows up for us. And this is about effortlessly being able to multiply the energy that we need to be able to do the things that we're meant to do in this lifetime. So just some things to kind of think about, but where are you compromising your energy? Even just subtly, right? What tasks or responsibilities or relationships leave you feeling drained? Which ones leave you feeling nourished? What activities or places, environments kind of amplify your natural sense of strength or capability? Where do you find that you're in flow? And then if you're in a misalignment, what do you need to do to redirect that energy so it feels aligned and meaningful for you? So that's what this transit is calling us into. And so just remember, your energy is sacred. It is sacred. So invest it where it's meaningful for you.
Well, and I think we're being called to take notice of those things much more lately than it's just coming up, not just as a transit, but in this era, right? This time of transformation. What are your thoughts, Simon?
Well, it's interesting because I downloaded something in 2012 called the Quantum Law of Attraction, which I taught in its first phase back then, and then taught it around the world. And the essence was one of the things I found about the whole secret idea and the law of attraction. Although it's true, there was a lot more to it than that. And one of the things that I focused on in the quantum law of attraction, which I renamed it or added to it, was the idea that anyone can create something and generate something by focusing and visualizing and doing vision boards and stuff. But the question I always said is that thing aligned to their true higher soul purpose or path? So I call this the true will, the higher will. We can call it the higher self, the holy guardian angel, or even the oversoul. The idea that we all have a higher trajectory through our incarnation, which we can choose to align to. Now, in the Bible, it talks about the broad path that leads to hell and destruction and the cruel, twisted, gnarled path that leads to heaven. So the twisted, gnarled path, not necessarily the easy path, but in the sense that, we're often going to be struggling to some extent against forces that want to prevent us and keep us subjugated, prevent us from realizing our true nature. So for me, it's about finding out the most important question, Jennifer, that I think we can ask from a personal perspective is, who am I? Why am I here? What is my path? And the single most important thing we can do is live that truth. And it's not about, a lot of people get attached to people, places, outcomes, and things. And what you're talking about, what you mentioned earlier, I see as compromising. When we compromise, some things are sacrosanct, meaning they are sacred and they're not negotiable. So our true soul path is non-negotiable if we want to live our highest reality. What is negotiable is the way we operate within that. And if we read about somebody like the Buddha, for example, he always adjusted his teachings to the proclivities of his students. So we do have to adapt. It's a non-linear universe we live in. It's not an exactitude. However, I'm of the strong belief that we all have a higher destiny, and that can be a combination of factors. Sometimes it can be burning off karma, things that we have to revisit from previous incarnations and deal with that's held in the light body. And I teach people how to cleanse and neutralize and ameliorate that stuff rapidly, so you don't have to go through tons of incarnations to get through certain things, subject to certain caveats. This book shows you how to do that.
And where were you about 100 lifetimes ago, Simon?
Well, I've got two souls incarnated in me. One encapsulates will and the other encapsulates in creative intelligence. So I've kind of got two sort of like parallel paths. But of course, you brought me onto a point here, Tanis, because we're talking about sequential time. Yeah. And we're talking about, I also talk about the quantum age. So sequential time is a convenient methodology to understand unfolding events that are divided and separated by the cerebral cortex, which is the way humans operate through their sensorial apparatus to perceive ideas and events. Okay, it's a separation game, black and white, hot and cold, red and green, whatever. So it's a separation game, which is quite often a purely practical survival purpose. It's very useful, but of course our senses are very limited in. And obviously science with their apparatus now can demonstrate that. There's so much more going on all of the time. The quantum age enables us to transcend the linearity of the illusion of sequential time. And sequential time is just a way to perceive things. And our perception of time is subjective, which we all can I'm sort of verified when we were children, time went much more slowly. There are times when at the moment, it seems to be going so fast. Okay, I am older.
Yes.
But obviously, it's a subjective thing. The quantum field, by contrast, is outside the worlds of space and time. So, it's what mystics have been talking about for thousands of years. I'm probably was one of those, Tanis, back in the day.
Yep.
But in the early part of the 20th century, scientists started to discover that there was a paradigm shift, a huge paradigm shift. Started really with Einstein, after Sir Isaac Newton's linear methodologies to look at the world worked very, very well, but there was shortcomings, which Einstein discovered, and then he was surpassed by people like Schrödinger and other quantum physicists who then discovered that the world is very small. The laws that we perceive at this level of scale, time and space, break down and collapse into a twilight world, the quantum field. So effectively, it gave validity to what mystics and magicians and esoteric people had been saying for generations, millennia, actually, that there is somewhere outside the world of form, and it is the source of form, actually. This is the paradox, okay? The source is that which fuels the worlds of form that kaleidoscopically refract from the white light of, we can call it the white light of Metatron, if you want to use that particular language. If you want to use the Kabbalah, we talk about the quantum field is aligned. I discovered this in the 90s, aligns to what we call the supernal triad, and then the goddess, the aliens of Earth. These are all just terms, they're models to help us get a sense that they're outside the worlds of our normal experience. There are other things that exist, and there are things that are beyond the realms of manifestation. And if we can access that place that is no place, that time that is no time, we can draw that fuel to transform and transmute our realities. So just coming back to the original question, the quantum law of attraction was about the idea that first of all, we find out who we are, why we're here, and then when we adapt and put in the various aspects that I brought through, we can then begin to manifest an alignment that's congruent with that true soul path. And when we start to do that, Jennifer, as you know, we're going to bound to face resistance, because people are challenged by authenticity. They're challenged by sovereignty. They're challenged by personal power. They're challenged by people who are confident, determined, focused, disciplined. They're challenged by it because it reveals to them what they may have not yet done. This is not a competition. It's just the way it is. I've had those challenges all my life. From being a little boy, as an indigo child, I caused consternation and issues in people's lives. I didn't intend to. It was just the nature of living a certain way. Even though I was green as a gooseberry in many aspects, it challenges people. I know you guys will feel the same. What is different, fortunately, and this time in 2025, is that more and more people are like us, i.e. more people have woken up. They realize that traditional linear thinking and operating just through the 3D matrix leaves them very limited. And spiritual emergencies happen. They may get sick. They may lose their job. They may lose their partner. They may just feel terrible about stuff and miserable. And they go, hang on a minute, there's got to be something more. The mainstream media are lying to us. The governments are lying to us. The World Economic Forum is definitely lying to us, etc. And people are waking up and saying, there's got to be a better way. But traditional religion has fallen short because, generally, because it doesn't really, it's more of a control system.
Yes.
It has seeds of good things. I'm not saying all religion is bad. I draw upon all traditions. I plunder them ruthlessly. I don't care. I'll go for those nuggets of truth, and they do have nuggets of truth. But unfortunately, the interpretations of them have become contaminated and sullied. And we've come out of a patriarchal age. A lot of it is control. The imbalanced masculine control. So we are in this new age. The quantum age is the age of the heart. Okay, because the heart is the conduit to the divine. Okay, we don't, you can't, and we have a quantum body. We are a microcosm of God, of grand order of design. of the infinite intelligence and source of the universe. We are, as humans, are different from animals in that sense, that we have within our field the blueprints, invariably latent. Most of us is latent, but we have the blueprints and the architectural basis to radiate and reflect all the wisdom of the universe. This is called gnosis. I'm a Gnostic in the true sense of the word. I like to believe I am anyway. I'm always searching for true wisdom and the infinite power of the universe. And with that comes the cities, the powers. And when we practice enough and we do the work, we start to get those magical powers. We don't search them out for themselves. They are byproducts of enlightenment, byproducts of somatic experience. And so, you know, for me, it's very important. Prosperity in this time of change, it's very important that people focus on living the path of mastery. The path of mastery means that, you know, when you were talking about earlier, you were talking about harmonizing. I'm not going to harmonize with low vibrational people. I can be around them, but I choose not to. And I show people how that, yes, it's true that, you know, if we hang around a barber for long enough, you're going to probably get a haircut. However, there's things that we can do to maintain personal power and robust nature within the field that protects us in our journey, our sojourn through life. Okay, and those are the things I teach. And they're not just a teaching as a mental body teaching, they're an entraining process that transforms the light body out of a fragmented, discombobulated, broken, splintered energy field into one that is, as you use the word, I think it was congruent or aligned to source. So it requires amendment. It requires amendment. Now that amendment can happen. I can help people do that. But ultimately, it's if every individual has to do the work themselves, and there are trainers and people who can come in and give them some guidance, because I studied vociferously all my life, looked for good teachers. You know, I had to work really, really hard to find anyone of any real value. But in a way, that was good because we all do our own research. I encourage people to do their own stuff. This is not a religion. This is practical, esoteric, energetic reality, where we can move into alignment with our true soul path, our true highest destiny. And the more of us that do it, it becomes easier, because that's the power of what we call entrainment. Mutual alignment becomes easier when there's others around. Focus with the same level of dedication, etc.
Yeah. So many things that you shared, I really appreciated when you talked about taking from all of the different religions, because from a mystical perspective, if we actually get into the mystical teachings of each of the religions, there is unity across religions and what is being taught. And so when we take that as opposed to, as you said, the man-made structure part of it that was put in for control, we do recognize that every single one of these are teaching the same basic truths. And then when you shared about, you know, not being able to find any solid teachers, you know, each one of these teachings throughout the religions are talking about how that ultimate teacher is that higher self, the divine within, that is meant to teach us and show us and guide us and direct us into that higher calling that you were talking about that we have. And how, you know, the cities, as we were talking, you know, I loved that you talked about them being byproducts, not something that we seek out, because ultimately, when we're living in alignment, then they're just facilitated in our experience. They're not something that we have to make happen. And actually, the more that we make or try to make them happen, the more caught up in the shadow aspect of it we become.
That's right.
And I think, Jennifer, what you just said actually was touched on a point when you talked about the higher self. I mean, the most important of the early initiations, you know, if you look at the traditional degrees of magical mystery schools, is the knowledge and I call it the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, or activating the genius or higher self. So back in '96, I performed a ritual called Liber Samek for 3 months to obtain the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, which I did on the 19th of March 1996. From that point onwards, my creative flow has never stopped. I've always had direct creative connection without break. And that's not that I'm special, it just had the opening happened. I mean, I've made mistakes, I've messed up, and I've done other things that aren't aligned, and I've become more creative. But the basic creative flow has just been, unfettered, basically. So with the quantum law of attraction, that's the first thing I teach people. How can we get to obtain the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel? It's not the highest initiation, but it is the most important of the early ones because it helps us move beyond the persona and the limitations of our own personalized experience, as sophisticated as we may think we are. None of us have the whole picture. It's like having a massive record collection. Back in the day, I used to have records, and then I had CDs. And imagine having a massive one. Compare that today to Spotify or Apple Music, where you can get everything. It's quite a good metaphor, really. Getting everything means through the heart. It's not about personalized mental body aggregation of information, much as that can be useful. It's about direct parampara. I call it direct parampara. And parampara is magical transmission. And parampara is traditionally was master to cello. Now I get it directly. I don't really need to read books anymore. That's not that I'm being arrogant. I've read tons. So I get the basic gist of all magical aspects. I get the gist of it. There's always new bits of information that come and things that we can do, but essentially I get direct parampara now. That hasn't just come, that's as a result of discipline, ritual, magical practice for decades. And because I have that experience, I can show people shortcuts to cut out a lot of the stuff where I didn't have the help. I had to go it the long way around. Direct experience through the higher self and ultimately the oversoul, so that we can move up Jacob's ladder to higher levels of initiation. And of course, when we get to those levels of initiation, we can kick the ladder away. The ladder serves a purpose. The discipline, the ritual serves a purpose. So ultimately, we can transcend this is the funny one, even the Holy Guardian Angel that took us to the edge of the abyss, we can wave goodbye to, and we have to actually in that moment of supreme samadhi, release ourselves and liberate ourselves, even from all the teachers that brought us there. We'll meet them again in a different way, actually. All of these things are about personal initiation. And what I love about this age is the sovereignty aspect, how people are moving to sovereignty. They're moving out of, compliancy. We've seen mass compliancy and how it's messed people up, whether it's compliancy to government bad laws or whatever it might be. I won't go into the politics of stuff, but I help people move beyond the limitations of we just are part of the herd mentality to personalized sovereignty. Means like sometimes we're going to have to go against the grain, guys, but it's going to make you a better person, a stronger character. It's going to make you happy, and you're going to live. When you finally leave the planet, you're going to go, yeah, I did it. I did it my way. Well, it's actually God's way. It's the higher way, actually. But when I say my way, the way of the soul path, the true soul nature or destiny. And that's why I encourage each person to follow, that we all do have this higher octave of potentiality. We all do have these higher timelines which we can choose to align to and to live. And it takes discipline, it takes courage quite often, it takes bravery, it takes dedication, and it takes drive. I had that drive early on in my life. I could just look at the matrix and I just knew. I didn't always know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. And I looked around and I thought, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be part of that 9-to-5 thing. I mean, I like nice things, but I just didn't want to be part of that. A lot of stuff, And, if you have that drive, you can create a different reality, a much higher reality of great health and vitality as well. It affects everything positively when we're really aligned to our true nature through the heart.
Yeah. And what you were saying about, getting the information from your, I believe you were calling it the higher angel. For me, it's higher, Holy Guardian Angel. Yeah. For me, that's would be my higher self or above the higher self.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So when I for myself, I had a higher self integration ceremony that happened in the astral, it was with the angels and stuff. And that did make things much easier to access. like you were saying, right? You end up having this whole creative flow that just flows through all the time, and you're getting information on a regular basis. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
lovely.
Plug in, bang, get
Yeah.
everything you need all the time.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I love the comment. Ascending Universal Butterfly says, I'm so glad that my journey has not been easy because it has given me the opportunity to transform so much and more. And to what you were saying, Simon, about that courage, that dedication of I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be like this. That ability to take that step back and have that surrender moment too of my head, my ego, my programming, my stuff is making, me do these patterned things that are not serving me at all. And it's in that moment of surrender going, I know, and I've had that experience of like, I'm done. I am done. I just want to get out of my own way, come on through, guide, because I don't know. This individuated sense of self has no idea. So I want to, as you said, plug in, right? And now it's I'm giving it all over, ready to go, right?
Absolutely. It's about, and you mentioned the word flow. So, it's also about learning to, I say to a lot of people who are troubled at the moment, I do a lot of videos. I run a magical order, and we do a lot of healing rituals. I do about 35 healing rituals a year of my global order. And, I teach people that get out in nature. I'm in South Morocco at the moment. It's absolutely stunning where we are. I walk on the beach with my partner and we go in the sea, and it's great for us. And it's just brilliant to be in nature, aligning to the universe, like the stellar cycles, the solar cycles, and the lunar cycles really will enable you to feel better physically and mentally and emotionally. I teach people a 59-day cycle. I was given it by a witch called Gregory Jensen Van Etten about 15 years ago. He'd done 30 years of research on the moon. He shared it with me and asked me to build upon it, which I did, and wove my own teachings into that basic structure, which he discovered, which was phenomenal, actually. I shared that with thousands of people across the world, and people have aligned to it. And it's just the ideas, like you were talking about astrology earlier. We're in the middle of a Mercury retrograde at the moment. Saturn is retrograde. My Saturn return, final echoes of it are coming through now. Saturn's in Pisces still. And if we understand that those heavenly bodies are actually a representation of something deeper. Okay, there's actually an occult or hidden astrology behind all of these things. It's about the forces of the universe interacting. When we truly align to those, okay, as the ancient indigenous people are, then we can be happy and live at peace with our fellow man and woman on the land. The land is very powerful. What I feel has happened is that, we live in a world of a great disconnect, okay, whether it's people on their phones all the time, or people living in intense urban environments with, being deluged by EMFs and stuff. All those things, they kind of disconnect people. The way people operate and think and communicate is disconnected from the heart. So people say, well, how can I help myself? I'm feeling miserable. Get out in nature, get in by the river, get by the sea, get in the mountains, get by the rivers, or even if you're in a city, get into the park, stand with a tree, sit with nature, look at the moon cycles, follow it. If you're interested, you can follow me on Facebook. I'll add you to my groups, and a lot of free resources I give out there to help people. Yeah, just there. At Simon Hinton, just add me or just send me a message if you're interested. It's about living in harmony with nature. Nature is organic, it's non-linear, it's the mystery of the goddess, which are just masks for us to understand the unusual iterations of the universe. And to live in harmony with that means we'll have great health. I don't get sick under normal circumstances. I never get really ill. I'm very healthy. I have lots of energy. Even at nearly 62. And I look younger than I looked, apart from the grey hair, probably 10 years ago. I feel much better. And that's because I'm living in alignment with that. I teach people how to do that, to live a much healthier life, happier life, joyful life, and to attract. Then when you're aligned to that, Jennifer, you're attracting things that resonate with that vibration. So, wherever I go, I get people. People look after me. People are very nice, and generally speaking, we seem to attract good people and nice people around us all the time. I mean, not always, but generally, like attracts like. So if you put out the good vibrations and you're living your true soul path, I'm not saying it's all going to be easy. It is a third dimensional matrix which we're existing in. However, if we align to that, we can move through the dimensions. We have the blueprints, guys, for multi-dimensional connection to source. Which means this, the dimension of our current perception is limited, as we know, through the cerebral cortex and our senses. Multidimensional awareness is we can get senses of things outside of the limitations of that separation. So when we recognize that we're existing actually in a hologram, and we really live by that, then we start to get the serendipitous, synchronistic things happening, and deja vu, and we've been here before, and I know you already, and then it just... I remember when that happened to me 30 years ago. Now it happens it happens so continuously. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just part of my nature. And that's the multidimensional nature which Christ taught about. He said, "Ye will do greater things than me." And he was demonstrating to people what the possibilities are when we have the 12 strands of DNA activated, when we are multidimensional. He created a grid of people around him, the 12 apostles and the Mary Magdalene in particular, most notable, to support that egregore or magical engine of transformation. But he said, "You'll do greater things than me." The second coming of Christ isn't another human coming back or another Superman coming back. It's the Christ consciousness, the Christa consciousness, and that consciousness means that we have the potentiality to reflect with perfected alignment all aspects of the divine continuum. We have that through the heart center. I teach people key things they can do to help them move along that process. It's always ultimately personal. The connection with divine is always personal, right? Of course it is. But we can operate as initiators and catalysts for that change. So I don't go in and rescue anybody. I mean, people want to be rescued. I see clients 7 days a week. A lot of people want to be rescued because they've got that historic programming from 2,000 years of patriarchal Christendom and other religions where they expect to be rescued. They believe they were born a sinner. Guys, that's bullshit. Let me just tell you, we're not sinners. We are just learning. A child isn't a sinner when he falls over or she falls over. We fall over 7,000 times on average before we learn to walk. We're not sinners. Stop it. Stop being guilty. It's a persecution matrix complex. Get rid of it. Liberate yourself. I'm not a sinner. I'm a winner. I teach people how to be a winner. That means winning in every day. We're not win-lose, win-win. Okay. When we align to Godhead, we're winning with winning, not winning with losing. That's the sin complex of separation. I win, you lose. It's not true. It's just, these are some of the programs that have been purveyed against the humanity. No wonder we're so messed up. And perpetual conflict can only end when people rise above the limitations of their personalized perspective, their own intergenerational karma, their own trauma, their own programming, the peer pressure, the national egregores, and all the other stuff. We can liberate ourselves from that. Starts here, guys, with the heart.
Yep, definitely.
A personal direction and a commitment to change, and open-heartedness, and actually humility. Actually being humble to say there's got to be something better than this. I surrender to a higher flow, whatever that flow is. There's got to be something better than the separation and the conflict and the genocide we're seeing on the planet now. It has to be. And there is.
There is.
It's the answers are within. Ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that synchronicities, the deja vu, the multidimensional kind of nature of things, as you were talking, I really appreciated that idea that what we bring forward within our consciousness really does impact the experiences that we have. I remember having a conversation with somebody who was in a very similar situation as I was. And, and we're talking and she's sharing her experience and I'm sharing mine, and they're complete opposites. And yet the capacity for them to be the same is there. It was about mindset and where we were at, where I'm saying, oh no, I go into every situation thinking this is going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out. We're going to figure it out. And she was going into every situation going, oh, this is horrible. I hate being here. I don't want to have to do this. And that's exactly the experiences that we were having. And just having that conversation around what it is to have that separation complex, to have that part of us that feels isolated, alone, misunderstood, that is disconnected from the unified matrix, right? As opposed to these kind of separation matrices that we have. And so I think it's such a beautiful thing to understand that we have that capacity to step out of this one and into that eternal one.
Well, and we often talk about the lenses, right, that we look through, and that those lenses are the programming. And so in the example you were giving, right, you were looking at the world through two entirely different lenses, right? And that's you stepping out of the matrix, and she's still there, right, in that matrix, and thinking there is the separation when we are all one. Yeah.
The beautiful thing, of course, is that the principles of mastery are ubiquitous. They apply across the board. So, I mean, I honestly, I mix with every kind of person you can possibly imagine, and it enriches me. You know, I'm one day with a CEO, the next day I'm with a postman, and you know, they're human beings. They have feelings, they have eyes, they have noses, they have mouths, and they have feelings, and they may have different sociological backgrounds, but they are human beings on a journey. And it's amazing the similarities, actually, because I see the same kind of problems. People come to me and they got a problem with their relationship. They're multi-millionaire, fine. Got a problem with relationship, they're a milkman, fine. It's the same sort of problem, actually. Slightly different context, but it's similar. And so, you know, unfortunately, what's happened in the world, you know, the way I see it is it's a divide and conquer mentality has been perpetuated through modern human history. Okay, and it's obvious why, because when people are united in commonality, then the controlling rackets that want to keep us subjugated, I will fail. It's as simple as that. And we're seeing this in the world at the moment. I'm not going to take any sides because we can see the rise of populism. And what that kind of means is ordinary people are saying, there's got to be a better way than this left or right nonsense. Yes. You know, there's got to be a better way. Something doesn't feel right. We know it, and people are feeling it. They're sensing it's a visceral awakening. And that's why, you know, you're seeing all these marches globally around all sorts of things. I'm not saying I'm causes, or I'm just saying it's part of that French Revolution style uprising. You know, it's the revolutionary spirit. People are saying enough. It's got to be better than this. Why are we people killing each other? Why are children being killed? Why can't you guys sort it out? What is it with you? And so, you know, this for me is laying the ground for the golden age that the Hopi Indians prophesied. They got pretty much everything else right. So the golden age is coming. We are going to create it, right? People who are awakening are going to create it. The more that become awake, the more laborers to create it we'll have. Okay, we're creating it with connection and heart and consciousness and love, the bonding force of love and generosity, and rising up above the limitations of our own personal perspectives into a grander vision of people living in harmony with nature. Actually, I always say, I turn back to nature again and again. If we can live in harmony with nature and with the animal kingdom, you know, and we can look and we can live a life where we're connected, you know, not separated by being an activist or being, you know, in a prejudicial way, but we're connected outside of that. That's the wisdom of the divine. The wisdom of divine transcends the limitations of all the political upheavals up and down, left and right, and the rest of it. The wisdom of the divine is eternal. Okay, that's what gnosis is. It's accessing.
Oh no!
Oh dear.
Well, while we're waiting for Simon to come back, I think that's what I was just going to say. Is ascending.
He's back. We were just looking at this comment
Yeah.
here that it's an amazing time to be on the planet because we experience so much contrast and returning to alignment, and that's what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the rackets are fighting to keep their power.
Of course.
Trying everything going. I mean, I've been
Mm.
talking about this stuff for decades. People thought I was crazy. Back in the day, but I was just a maverick out there. Now, of course, people actually are seeing firsthand. They can't believe that. But I really used to believe the BBC. And I was like, no, do you remember the Freedom March when a million people came? I remember that. It goes, yeah. They said there was 350 people on it. Didn't that make you think, hang on a minute? So you look at these mainstream media organizations and, you know, they're following, who owns them? What agenda are they following? What message are they putting out there? And it's not the message of the heart in most cases. It's biased towards the owners, biased towards the advertising revenue, biased towards the clickbait that they get. So it's great because we have the internet now, and people do have the opportunity to research and to look outside of the traditional narrative. I mean, when I was growing up in the sort of 70s and 80s, you know, there wasn't much opportunity to go outside the traditional narrative. Mm-hmm. We had, like in the UK, we had like 3 or 4 channels. You know, we didn't have the internet. You know, there might be some few what they used to call dangerous books at certain libraries, you know.
Right.
It wasn't generally available, so people just believed what they were told because there wasn't anything else generally. Now, of course, we have a deluge, we have a whole ocean of information, and to navigate through that ocean is to stay in the heart, okay? Because stay psychically connected. So I follow my intuition more than I follow my left brain now. I still have a pretty strong left brain, but I follow my intuition, and that will tell me generally the right things when I'm not emotionally biased. And that's what I encourage people to do, to step outside of just what you've been told, what you've read in textbooks, what mum and dad have told you, because they didn't know much better either, generally. And forge your own path with great independence and sovereignty. You know, go out there. You'll have a fantastic life if you do. It'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating. It'll be exotic. You'll meet brilliant people. And it will be tough as well, but it will be, you know, it'll be worth it. Believe me, it's worth getting out there and being authentic and being sovereign. You'll have a much grander experience than just being compliant to what everyone around you tells you're supposed to be like.
Yeah, those shoulds, right?
Exactly.
The shoulds. They get in the way.
Going back to the analogy that you used earlier with the CDs versus the Spotify, what was coming as you were just talking is, you know, I remember for me, you know, when we had tapes, and I remember sitting there waiting for that song to come on and being like, you know, you're going to miss the first so many seconds of it before you can hit the record button so you can make yourself your own kind of mixtape of the songs that you like. But you were still subject to only hearing the music that the radio stations that you listened to provided for you. And unless a friend or somebody introduced you to something new, you didn't really get to know all of what was out there or what you could listen to. And so we get very caught up in that narrow-minded way because that's all we know. And then here we are with something like Spotify, and we have access to all the music that is out there.
Amazing.
And that can even be overwhelming, right? It allows us to be able to experience so many different things, but it's also kind of going, okay, well, what is it that I like? What don't I like? And I loved where you were going in that idea of staying in the heart and intuition and being authentic and sovereign, because, you know, Spotify does this thing where it says, here's recommended music for you based on your listening style or what you've, you know, and we get to listen to that and go, does this resonate? Do I feel good listening to this? Does this light me up? Does this feel like there's a dissonance in it? Does it not quite settle right with me? And this is just music, but we can do this with every aspect of what we're being given. You're talking about all the information, the news, all of those things. And I think it is such an important skill to learn to listen to yourself, to your heart and your intuition. And, music is one beautiful way to do that, because music has frequency. We can truly feel that at a depth within us. And so practice with that. And then when somebody tells you something, go, oh, let me roll that through. Does that resonate? Does that feel off? How do I feel when I hear that? How do I feel when I say that? Does that align? Does that feel misaligned? And the more that we go into that heart center to feel that, I think the more people are going to be able to step out of this differentiated matrix and go, that doesn't align for me. So let me see what else is possible.
Well, I love your metaphor, Jennifer. I think it's a brilliant metaphor. Funny enough, I used to be in the music business back in the day. And in those days, when I was making recording and making records and stuff, we used to call it's called A&R guys, and that stands for artist and repertoire. So the artist and repertoire guys were a little bit like the priesthoods were back in the day in the Catholic Church. You couldn't get to God unless you went by the priest. So you couldn't get your record out unless the A&R guy signed it off and the record company gave you an advance and you could do recording, and then it was promoted. So you were limited to the control matrix of the A&R guy. So it's a great metaphor. And I get now, of course, we're moving in all areas. I see the way that computers work and the internet. I just see it as a kind of like a manifestation of the collective brain, the collective consciousness, the grand collective, for better or worse, right? Because it's not all good, is it? But the idea of it, the idea that we can interconnect, is like we're all neuronic conduits, if you like neuronic pathways in the brain, neurons. We are like neurons in a grand mind. And so because of that, we know that mathematically there's enough people believe in something, enough people focus with heart-centered intention, it can shift the magnitude of the grand mass. I think it's something as small as a square root of 1% of something is sufficient. It's like a rudder, basically, in a great big cruise ship. The rudder is actually proportionally very small, but it only has to turn a small amount, and that great ship will change direction. And so it is. I say to people, look, we may just be a small group of a few people today, right? But what's interesting is, I've taught thousands of people over the years, but what we don't see is, like, you teach one person and then their energy shifts and it has a reverberation effect, the butterfly effect, outside of anything that you may ever see again. Okay, so never underestimate the power of what a few people in good heart-centered collective consciousness can achieve. We can achieve a huge amount, actually. And we may not see it immediately, but it has a reverberation beyond what we can witness.
Well, and we've seen that on those days when we have Global Meditation Day, because it actually, you see spikes in the Schumann on those days. It actually affects the whole planet and how much it's vibrating. And when that happens, of course, we're all on the planet. So it raises everyone's vibration. That's a huge one when we can do that. But you're right. I mean, Wayne Dyer said that, like, one high vibration person can affect the lives of 25,000 people. Very quickly, right?
Yeah, that's very true. And Jesus said, when 2 or 3 gathered in my name, because he knew the power of exponential growth. And this power of collective entrainment is something that's demonstrated scientifically. It's not just a new age concept. We know that when groups of people come together, there's a particular critical mass point that occurs in consciousness, where it's not just 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. It's 1 times 1, 2 to 4, 8, 16. It grows exponentially. So that's why it's important to stay focused and hang out with people of a high vibration, and collectively with common focus outside of the limitations of our personal ego. If we can put the ego aside and step out of that, we can achieve so much, and the universe will look after us. It really, really will look after us. And we may not get direct reciprocation from a kind act, but it doesn't matter. Just do it anyway, because it's a great thing to do, and you will get looked after, believe me. And you'll have a much better life. So put out the goodness, step outside. And I encourage people to step outside their own immediate problems, because it's easy for all of us, myself included, to get deluged sometimes by the temporary issues and pressures that we may be going under. It could be financial, it could be relationship, it could be health, it could be all sorts of things. It could be our children's health, whatever it is. It's easy to get weighed down with that stuff. But if we stay in the path of the heart, walk the path of mastery, we will be able to navigate more effectively outside of that. So I always encourage people to step outside of it, to maintain optimism, to maintain positive thinking. It's very important to be positive and to know and believe and to build a belief, even if you don't have it, that there is a higher way, a better way, there is a gateway out of this toxic matrix that many people are caught up in, and that gateway is through the heart center.
Yeah. Love is the answer.
Love is the key, chosen for those that free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love that you were talking about the how they always provide, and then your story, Jen, about the Reiki Master training. That always comes to mind.
Yeah.
Did you want to share that one, maybe?
Yeah, I remember when it was, I had the opportunity to do my Reiki Master, but I did not have the funds to do it. But I kept being told, no, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And I was like, all right, I'll sign up for it, but I don't know how this is going to happen. And then one day it was like, okay, go clean this whatever out. And I started cleaning it out, and I found keys. And I was like, oh, what are these keys for? And I kept on going. And then I was like, oh, the lockbox. I don't know where that is. And then kept going. And then the lockbox showed up, and I was like, okay. And I unlocked it, and the exact amount that I needed to do my Reiki course was in the lockbox. And I just thought, okay, thank you, universe.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
The amount of clients who come to me and say similar things, like, I don't know if I can afford to do the mastery course. And I don't like money to come be the obstacle, but obviously I've got to get paid. I've got to live like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's great when people make the decision. They don't always, I say, don't worry about the house. Just make the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual decision to do something, that you're going to do it. And it's amazing how the doors open and the funds come through, or whatever it takes to come through. I've seen this so many times. I've had it in my own life. Back in the day, I spent a lot of money 25 years ago finding the right people and doing the right courses, and and the money always showed up. It was amazing, actually. I couldn't believe it sometimes.
I can recall a situation actually not long ago, like last year. I was sitting there and I was struggling with some pain in it, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I've done chiro, I've done physio. What do I need to do? I kid you not, 5 minutes later, I got asked if I wanted to do a share with a kinesiologist. And I was like, okay, apparently that's what I need to do. And so I did it, and it resolved. It's amazing how quickly they can answer the call, whether it's money, whether it's what you need to do, or resources, whatever that is.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, I can't believe it. I just always seem to have enough. It's weird, but that's living in flow, and that's living in harmony with the environment. And it's important to give back. I try and give back as best I can. We do loads of free healing work, tons of stuff, and and then other people pay, and some people pay handsomely because they want to know, they want to learn more, and it all seems to just work out ultimately, and everyone gets better. And so it's good to remember that we live in a hologram.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
infinite
we live
possibility.
So everything we do has an effect. And the more open we are, the more the synchronicities and serendipities will come through.
Do we have Betsy? Is this
Betsy? She's decided that she needs to say hello to everybody. She's like, I love synchronicities, especially when somebody leaves food on the counter.
Indeed.
We're in Morocco, so we have so many cats everywhere. We are just literally followed by cats. My girlfriend, she loves cats, and so do I. Wherever we go, we're just feeding literally tons of cats everywhere. It's brilliant.
Awesome.
They are definitely made in the image of the divine. There's no doubt about that. So I love animals. Amazing. They teach us
Absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely.
Just like the Lyrans, right, Jen?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
So I'm noticing the time, and I did pull our card.
Perfect.
And of course, your intuition is telling you something.
Yeah, we can't make this stuff up. There we go.
So I'll just read this to us really quickly.
Okay.
It says,
Great.
you are getting signals and messages that are worthy of your attention. Listen to that whispered voice, grandchild. It holds great wisdom for your journey. Intuition lives in the realm of the sacred feminine. You can trust that feminine voice when it whispers to you. In this world of distraction, the intuitive signal seems ghost-like. It is fleeting and never speaks in the same way twice. Do not ignore it. Become clear in your intentions and say, I hear you, and I will listen. The message of your intuition could be leading you to a rendezvous with a very special person you have been praying to meet, or away from a disaster of some kind. Trust your intuition. Great things happen to those who follow the call of the sacred feminine.
Has that not been a huge part of our message today?
It's also very linked to the high heart. So the sacred feminine is very linked in my system to the 8th chakra. The high heart is the expanded heart. So if you think of Christ rising as the triangle going up, and the feminine is the triangle descending, the blue triangle, and together they create the Star of David, the red and the blue, the will and the love. And the feminine is opening ourselves up to receiving, the enabling, intuitive force of the divine, the mystery of the divine feminine. So I run a goddess veneration order, so we work with different goddesses. I'm working with Aisha Kandisha and Lala Mimuna from Morocco this cycle. It's about to end on Scorpio in a couple of days, the 19th. And I encourage people to work and choose a goddess to work with, because it will help align you to that mystery, that grand mystery of the divinity, of the infinite.
Absolutely. So we usually ask as well what you have coming up. Do you have something you'd like to share with people? Events or other podcasts or anything?
Well, I'm always doing things. I'm on the Beyond Be. I just did an interview last week on Liliana's quantum alchemy activation. That's out and about at the moment. I did a recent interview with Matt Vaughan on soul architecture, where I talk in depth about my quantum teachings and the harmonic resonance. I'm also giving a talk on the Cathar. I've given a talk, actually. It's going to be on the 6th of December with Beyond Being Human and Michael David. I think you know Michael, great guy, lovely guy. He's doing some really, really interesting stuff at the moment. I saw an interview with him and Jane 108 recently. That was really cool. I'm out in Morocco for a while, but I'm seeing people all the time. I'm launching a quantum academy shortly called the Great Life Toolkit, where people can learn how to become a teacher and share these teachings in an advanced way. If anyone's interested, do contact me. It's going to be relaunched quite soon. So I've always got loads of things going on. And if people want to contact me, if they want help, if they want support, if they want free support, just PM me. We're doing a ritual on Thursday,
Beautiful.
on the Scorpio new moon. And if you want help personally, I'm seeing clients literally 7 days a week, supporting people in their highest endeavor, giving them guidance, in training them and showing them what they can do to move outside of the viscosity of the limitations of their mind into an open-ended, heart-centered paradigm of love, peace, joy, wisdom, and happiness. That's coming up.
Beautiful. So you can catch him on Facebook, right?
Yeah, just PM me. Go facebook.com, Simon.Hinton. Just PM me. Send me a private message, or just have a look. And I'll invite you to some of the groups I run with lots and lots of free resources. The Quantum Law of Attraction group, the Cathar group. There's lots of groups I run where I share these teachings with like-minded people, and it's open for anyone who who's interested in learning and developing and improving their lives.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And Jen, what have you got coming up this week?
That's a good question. I'm doing a recording with Therapist in Conversation. That'll come out the 1st of the next month, the 1st of December.
Yep.
And on Saturday, I think it's this Saturday, I'm offering a free quick intro to the Success Codex and what that looks like for you. So that I think is going to be at 3, if I remember correctly, Eastern on Saturday.
Yep. That's
Cool.
3 o'clock on Saturday. You can sign up on the twillowlifestyle.ca site.
Great.
I'm also doing one the same day, Crystal Basics. So if you've got those crystals, you're not sure exactly what to do with them, come and see us. It's an hour one. And if you want to try a yoga class with Jacqueline Richards, please go ahead and use the sign-up code free yoga. And you can have one free yoga class with her until the end of November. So that's coming up. And
Cool.
any other podcasts or anything, Jen? I don't want to interrupt. Just wanted to add that.
Nope, that's it for me.
That's it for you? Okay, perfect. I'm doing Infinite Integrations with Jacqueline Richards on Wednesday. And that's at 5 p.m. And yeah, I think that's it actually for me for this week too. I may be in the Therapists in Conversation episode as well. See where the week takes me. And yeah, so it's just been an honor and always a pleasure to speak with you, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been an honor for me too, to be with such nice people who are like connected and intuitive and on the path. Brilliant.
Beautiful.
It's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us and sharing your energy with us. And yeah, come back again and see us next week. See you soon.
I will do. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.